Hi, and welcome back to Walking with the Chosen. I'm your host, Shay Keith. On today's episode, I am interviewing Betsy. Betsy is a lady that I got to meet in Colorado when I was at Podcast Movement. She is a friend of mine whose name is also Shay. They actually have a podcast together. And Shay said, "You need to meet this woman. She loves The Chosen as much as you do." So I was very excited to get to talk to Betsy in Colorado. She pulled me aside for a little bit while I was trying to do some work on as a volunteer at the conference, and we kind of talk about that a little bit here on this episode. But we had a great little chat in between my work sessions, and it was so much fun to get to know her. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Betsy again when I go to ChosenCon. So what that means is, yes, this was recorded before ChosenCon, so it's a little out of sequence to the last two episodes that I've done. And it was also recorded before everything that blew up over in Israel on October 7th. And you'll see that also impacted Betsy's plans on what she had scheduled to do in November of this year. So I'm a little out of order, and my audio somehow got messed up when I was recording this with her. It came off really loud, and I tried to adjust it so it's not as bad, but if you notice it sounds a little different, that's what it is. I tried to edit it in this particular tool that I'm using. It didn't come off as good as I had hoped, and I could spend a week or two trying to figure it out, but this show is already delayed as it is, so I wanted to get it out as soon as possible. I hope everybody has been or did have a great Christmas and that you're looking forward to the new year. I know I can't wait for season 4, episodes 1, 2, and 3. I bought my ticket today. I am not kidding you. I'm so excited. February 1st is when they're going to come out with those first 3 episodes at the movie theater. And yes, there's going to be an intermission because it's going to be between 3 and 3.5 hours. I thought I saw 3.5 hours. So if you haven't seen the latest sneak peek that came out on Christmas Day, make sure you go over to my Facebook group, Walking with the Chosen, just so you can see that. It's amazing, and I'm telling you, season 4 is going to be on fire. The way that Jesus talks to the Pharisees, which we all know he does, it happened in the Bible that way. But when you see it portrayed in a sense, real life, obviously, Jonathan Rumey's not Jesus, but you know what I mean. When you get to see it on screen like that, it gives you that visual impact and the ability to hear it. And it's just like, whoa. So I'm very excited about season 4. But enough of all of that chatter. Let's get into this episode. I want to introduce you to Betsy. Be ready for a ride with Betsy. She has a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and she loves Jesus. So let's begin. Welcome back to Walking with the Chosen. Today, I have a guest on my show that I met at Podcast Movement a few weeks ago. Her name is Betsy. Betsy and I became very fast friends when we met at Podcast Movement, and we almost didn't want to stop talking, and I had things I had to do, but I am so excited to have her on the show. She's going to share a heartfelt story about how much The Chosen has meant to her in her life. And I just can't wait to dive into this, Betsy. So I can't say enough justice about you. Please tell us who you are.
It all began in a small hospital, Shay. It was, I'm 62 years old, so that was a long time ago. I'm just that kid that grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. I went to a public school, and I was an entrepreneur's daughter. We only daughters, no sons. So my sisters have recently said on the passing of my dad, we were all together. They're like, well, you were the son. You are the son of this family. And I'm like, I'm taking that as a compliment. Okay. But we were not a church going family. And the word was not in our home. My parents had tea times on Sunday. And they were raised super, super serious Baptist. And they really believed religion was what told you could not dance or have fun or drink or do all the things they were denied as young people. And so they really ran away from the church, and we maybe went on a Sunday growing up, was not our jam. But I went to Young Life, and many of the people listening maybe had a Young Life experience in high school. And funny enough, on a mountain in Colorado, I found Jesus Christ and said, I don't know what I'm saying yes to, and I'm pretty weird, but I'm in. Jesus, let's do this. And that was kind of my saving experience. And that was in high school. But like everybody else, I went to college and spent more time worrying about boys and beer, I think, than than being in the Word until March 21st, 1983. So for all those of you who are listening, you're like, she's really old. You're right. I was in college in 1983. You probably weren't born. I digress. So it was just a total college night, right? 7 of us went out, and it was the night after the big dance. We had leftover beer. Now remember, we were in a blizzard going snowmobiling. We had to bring the beer because, that's the most important thing in the middle of the night. As a mother now, I'm like, no, don't let my daughter do something stupid like that. So we all go out snowmobiling. We're drinking beer. And I have this friend, Paul, and he's sitting in front of me on a sled, and he's holding the beer. And he's like, Betsy, I'm a 250-pound guy. You should be holding the beer. So we pull off the road. We switch places. He gets on the back of the snowmobile sled. I sit in front of him, and I'm holding the beer. We pull back on the road, and our friends hit us going 60 miles an hour, killing Paul and sending me down a road 78 feet, putting roadbed in my face, scraping off my face, landing on my shoulder and my hip. My friend Paul died that night in the same seat where I was sitting 5 minutes before he was killed. And after 21 days, they said, is she brain dead or just paralyzed? And when I woke up out of that, here it was my senior year at Purdue University. My friend was gone. I didn't even know that because I was in intensive care 21 days. I woke up as a whole different person, really, and said, oh, dear God, you saved me, and why? And that was a really huge piece for me because I really woke up and said, I have been, like, I'm going to use this word, chosen, to fit with the podcast theme. I've been chosen. And that was my walk on the water, man. I had to trust that this big God had a reason that Paul and I switched places, that it wasn't my time. It was his time to go to heaven, and that I was alive, even though with a lot of healing to do and still healing over all these years. I've had 2 hip replacement surgeries, and I can't wear fancy shoes. I have to wear flat orthopedic shoes and, take it easy. A really big God experience when I was a senior in college started me on this path of a life on purpose. And that kind of brought me to where I am today.
I have to back up a little bit because I like to dive into details a little bit more. Back to when you said in high school you were saved on a mountain. So what was that? Were you just out with a bunch of kids, or are you with that life group or that group?
Yeah, Young Life.
Young Life.
Absolutely.
I'm not familiar with that. Okay.
Okay, so in the Midwest, you had Young Life, and Young Life was like church light. So it wasn't on Sunday. It was at 7:30 in the morning before school, and they fed you breakfast. So, when you're a high schooler, somebody who feeds you food, number one's good. Then all the cute boys went to Young Life. So let's talk about motivation. So there were cute boys, food, and then they had social events in the evenings. And, the people I met, were God people, broadly defined, right? All walks of life in the Midwest. And this would have been in the 1970s. You're again not born. In the night, back in the olden days, Shay, we had these things called Young Life. But it was awesome because it was super, lots of worship music. And I didn't go to church because my parents, had tea times. We already said that. So they were at the country club. And so this gave me a place to have church with a bunch of really fun kids. And then we went on a bus trip, amazingly enough, out to Colorado. And then we went to this Young Life camp. And then they said, this is how you accept God. And I was like, I've never heard of this. Funny, my parents never mentioned it after 9 before the cocktail hour. Yeah. I missed that memo. I just went to a side of a mountain and just prayed the prayer that they told me, but I added all the Betsy stuff. P.S. Jesus, not so sure about me. I'm a little wacky, but I'm for you. Let me know. Let's do this. I think I said, let's do this. And so gave my life to Christ and, but still didn't have a huge church world because I was a college kid. I was a high school kid, then I was a college kid. When I was doing my practice marriage, round 1, my husband didn't believe. So again, I couldn't get any traction with him. When I was done with my practice marriage and single again, I got baptized in my 30s, mid 30s, because I had my own life and I could go to church and get a little bit more into it. Mm-hmm. But I, like a lot of us, kind of fell away a little bit and got wrapped up in the world until theme music. Do, 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 do. Here in my 60s and actually into my 50s now, I met The Chosen and everything changed.
So were you one of those people who found out about The Chosen right when it came out, or were you like me and found out about it after the fact, after season 1 was already out? So what's your story?
Yeah, my friend Maria, who has been a church youth leader and everything, kind of told me about it, but I didn't explore it until season 1 was out. And then they had me at hello. Man, I mean, by episode 2, I was watching it on my phone. Now I can't wait to get it on the big screen TV. I can't, I love it in the movie theaters. And but I was watching it on my phone, like binge watching it on my phone. I think I didn't take a breath or go to the bathroom through season 1. It's just like, I can't waste any more time. I'm going to miss something. And now it's so fun. I'm rewatching season 1 for the third time when it's on CW on Sunday nights. And it's like I'm seeing it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things. I'm like, oh, that's who that is. And oh, that's his dad. And when they, lowered down the paraplegic in the house and that was their dad's house. And, yeah. I'm all about it again, of course. And I think I told you this, I'm off to stay in Tiberias and I've got an Airbnb on the Sea of Galilee in November. And I get to go to Israel and then go also to Jerusalem. So I'm going to Magdala. I'm going to Capernaum. I'm just like all over it. So I'm like totally on fire.
I totally forgot about that. I remember we talked about that in Colorado, but I totally spaced that off. So I can't wait till you come back and tell me all about that trip, because that is definitely on my bucket list of places I want to go. I want to go see, the Mount of Olives. I want to see Jerusalem. I want to know where Jesus walked and be, get to walk the path he walked. That's got to be so exciting.
Yeah, we're going to take a girls trip next year. I'll get you on the list because this year I'm like taking the husband and, the friend and the husband, and it's kind of the 101 exploration tour. But my Bible teaching girlfriend's already like, we're going back with the girls. So you'd have a lot more fun going with us when we're really going to dive in and, and do a ton of just peaceful prayer. And like in the morning when my husband rolls over and says, where's Betsy? And it's 5 a.m., I'm going to be at the Sea of Galilee. I'm going to be down there in the morning praying with my friend, putting our feet in the water and pretending we could walk on it. Being like, we can step out of the boat. I know we can do it. We have the faith.
Let me back up here. So we've talked about how you were saved as a high school student. You had the horrible accident when you were in college that set you on a focus path so that you started putting God forward in your life again. So you're following him. But then you kind of fell away a little bit because of your first marriage. And then you got back into it. Would you say you were kind of maybe lukewarm during this period until The Chosen came out? I mean, did you go to church? Did you have life groups? Did you read the Bible? Or what was it like during that time period?
Yeah, I've never been much of a building girl. We tried a Presbyterian church here when our daughter was young, and the guy didn't believe in the role of women. And I couldn't sit in a pew and have a guy say women were not worthy. I know too much about Jesus and his disciples and his not claimed disciples like, Mary Magdalene and all the people that funded him and everybody. So I could not jam with a Jewish husband who didn't want to go and stayed on his iPad, a teenager who was rolling her eyes and didn't want to be there, and me not believing in the pastor, the new fantastic pastor of the church that I thought was not on my same wavelength. So I never was too much in the building. And I would go in spits and spurts of trying to find a church, but I never really got in a Bible study. So I would say I was just kind of wayward. I always, always, always have had God in my heart, and I pray and I, believe in Jesus, and I really believe in the Holy Spirit is in me, but I just never had a way that I was growing in it and that I was curious about it again. I kind of let the world, being an entrepreneur, for 18 years, I ran a women's group of 5,000 people through COVID, all the fundraising, all the work, all the marketing by myself, job of 100, only on me. So I pretty much filled up my world with what I called little M ministry. I was putting God's goodness and love and Jesus's work in the world through me as someone who was saved and who was a believer, but it was little M ministry. I wasn't at a pulpit telling people to come to a building and tithe. I was raising $1 million for charity and showing people about love and doing good. So it was ministry, but different. And I was totally spent, like so tired, run over by a freight train, didn't get the license plate, on the truck that hit me. And right about then, and that would be the end of my 50s, is when The Chosen started. And now 3 years in, I'm 62. So yeah, right at the end of my 50s, which is a big transition time for me because I was moving out of running the Women's Network and stepping into being an artist, which is this crazy thing God gave me in my later 50s. He's like, go to this art retreat. Out of nowhere, it was in my spam filter. And I'm like, yes, sir, I'm going. I did it. I went to California. I spent more money than God. I wish he could have given me a bank loan. And I did my first art class, and that turned into a card line and an angel line and then clothing line. And now I'm doing Chosen Inspired Clothing to get back. So like scary, fun, wild things happening in my end of my 50s. And God gives me this fabulous tool, the Chosen.
So do you think the Chosen was what kicked off all these other things you just talked about? That was the catalyst for it?
Well, I think what happened is I was starting to change and move, and my spirit just needed help, like to connect back to the family of God. And once I watched that first season and I met, Jesus, number one, and Jonathan's portrayal, I met Mary Magdalene, I met Matthew, my favorite character. I saw so many things that I'd been missing. And then it sent me back to the Bible because then after I met Matthew, I went back and started reading Matthew because I wanted to know more about what he had to say when he was writing it down all the time.
I'm just curious then, like after watching all 3 seasons, how has it transformed your life? I know you've got the art, you've got the clothing that you're making now for the Chosen, but what do you feel like is the most significant change that's happened since you started watching the show until today?
Well, I have added an entire new time of prayer and thanksgiving and ritual into my life. So I've added at night a half an hour to 45 minutes to an hour of reading the Chosen books and reading other God books and reading. I have 2 devotionals I do. I journal, so I end the day with praise and gratitude, and then I start the day with praise and gratitude. Mm-hmm. So I listen now to Hallow, and I tune it in to use Jonathan as my Jesus on Hallow, which is so funny to hear Jonathan on the Hallow app. So I do the Hallow app in the morning, and I do yoga with prayer. And then I am doing some deeper dive spiritual study into Mary Magdalene that I'm very interested in the women's perspective in the early Christian life. And I got something called the New Testament, which is the New Testament plus all the books that were not in the New Testament. Oh. So that's really interesting. Yeah. So it's like the book of Thomas and some interesting things that are, again, old Christianity texts. So I'm now listening only to K-Love. I turned off news and I'm just trusting God in this path of how to be an artist that gives money back to tithe. I call it art on purpose. And then how to serve God with Little M Ministry retreats and workshops and art classes so people get out of their crazy, stressed, losing their mind world and come over and have enough in-breath to hear the Holy Spirit. Wow. And so I'm practicing, and then I want to lead others to that through these retreats and adventures, tours to Israel with you next year, and super fun things, and of course podcasting and ways we can put good in the world.
Oh man, that is so amazing. And I totally relate to what you're saying because as somebody who was raised as a Catholic but didn't really get church, and I've told this many, many times, when I started watching The Chosen, it was like I always say, the veil was removed from my eyes. And all of a sudden I'm like, who is this guy? I got to know who Jesus is. So I started diving into the Bible, started reading and digging, and I'm still doing that to this day because it's only been a couple years for me. But I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm still a little nervous about where he's sending me, but I know this podcast is one of those things. He said, I want you to create this podcast. I'm like, okay, I don't know who's going to watch or listen, but I'm going to create it.
Yay. Well, see, and that's how I met you because our mutual friend Shay is like other Shay.
Yeah.
We have 2 Shays. Other Shay, Shay number 1, Shay number 2, the mayor of Podcast Movement. Yep. She's like, oh, you got to know Shay because she's like crazy about The Chosen like you. And so I watched the people do the feeding of the 5,000 and make that donation. And I thought, that's awesome, but I don't have that money sitting around right now. And I'm not so sure, and I watched him do the Beatitudes on the Mount of Olives and that one. And I was like, oh, wow. but I don't know if that's me. I'm not in a church family. They'd say, bring your church family and all this stuff. I'm like, don't have one. But this last year, I was watching The Chosen on the Loaves and Fishes Day, 5 and 2,
5 and 2,
May
yeah.
2nd. And they said, hey, anybody that will put up a website and raise money, you can earn a spot as a background extra for season 4. And I'm like, I can do that. I'm really good at that. I've raised money on GoFundMe before, and I have these people that know me from my network. I'm going to do it, God. But I tell you what, this is all you, because I can start it, but I don't even know. And if it's your will, it's all going to work. So I put $150 in, and I prayed about it. And I didn't hound people. Like, I made some posts, but I didn't post every day, and I didn't bug everybody 500 times. I just put it out there. I sent it to my chosen friends that I knew were watching The Chosen, friends that watched The Chosen. Also my chosen friends. But what's so weird is some of the people that watched The Chosen that I thought would be the big $100 donors, and really, really didn't even respond. And strangers I didn't even know that watched The Chosen that saw the post responded. Wow. And when I hit over 1,000, I knew the Come and See Foundation was doubling it. And I knew that my little project raised $2,000 for The Chosen. And I was invited to be a season 4 background extra.
I am so jealous about that, because I saw the opportunity and I was like, nobody's going to put money in there for me. I let the Mr. Negative guy in my ear tell me not to do it. So next time, we've talked about this, next time it comes out, I will definitely set up my own little webpage for that. I know you can't go into details about the scene and everything that you worked on, but I still like to just know, like, what was your experience? This was your first time being an extra, right? Have you ever been an extra in any show before?
No, I have not. And it was my first time, and they are really good. I want to call out to The Chosen events, and Jacqueline Events is the company that works with them, and they did a fabulous job. First, they set really good expectations, which was, you are a background extra. You are not the star of the show. Do not expect to meet the actors. Please do not bother them. They're working. I mean, I thought that was all very good. And some people were not super cooperative about that. They would kind of try to run over by where the actors were. I was really cooperative, and so was my girlfriend that I brought as a guest, because we were really prayerful about it and said, we are just blessed to be part of the show, and we're just going to walk around and do what they tell us, and we're not going to try to get in the scene or figure out where the camera is,
Right.
Because if we get in, great. But the coolest part was just reenacting amazing things from the Bible in The Chosen season 4 plus, because they could use the background scenes anywhere. Sure. And just being a part of Dallas and all of his crew and his son and all the actors and being there. So that was most amazing. It was 100 degrees, and we stood for 5 days in the desert, and they kept giving us salt tablets and water and Gatorade and everything. They did a good job of keeping us alive, because it was super, super, super hot. And, you just really had to keep drinking the water. Like, you drank so much water, but you never went to the bathroom. I'm just saying. Because it was that hot, you were like, this is really weird. I just had 6 bottles of water. They fed us well. They had an air conditioned tent, and you went in by groups. But I wrote this whole blog about this. I said it was kind of like being a follower of Jesus, right? You got prepared. Mm-hmm. So you said yes, you accepted the Lord, and then you got what you needed. You learned about it. So I would say you got your clothing, right? So we found outfits, and everybody got a lot of outfits on Amazon. So a lot of the ladies had the same base outfit, and then they jazzed it up. And I'd walk by them and say, Amazon. Because there was like 4 colors on Amazon, and I'd be like, Amazon orange, Amazon green, Amazon brown. Because it was a period appropriate base costume that was long and long sleeves. And then you put your things on. You had to wear hair things, and I had to take off my glasses so I look like this in The Chosen, because there's no glasses during the times of The Chosen, just saying. And you went by colored groups. I have my Chosen passes hanging on my bulletin board. So then they call your color group. So just like being in ministry, you're called to serve when it's your time, but you have to wait patiently when it's not your season, right? And you couldn't just go like, I'm Betsy and I want to be in every scene, because that's not how it worked. You had to wait until God called you, and it wasn't God. It was actually, the guy that ran the extras. Okay, then you would walk down, and then again, patience. Again, patience, because you'd wait and wait and wait, and they'd say like, ready, And that meant take off your glasses, Betsy. And nobody could wear wristwatches. You couldn't have any, 20th century anything. And then you would walk around back and forth through the scene, like with your market basket, going to the market. And then they'd say, cut. And then you do it again and again and again and again. And they'd get all the different scenes. So you had to hurry up and wait. And then you got to do your job. But your job was directed by God, I would say, and look at the big picture. You're directed to serve. So my service was walking back and forth in this shot. And then you got to wait again. So patience. And then you were complete with that day. And then you could rinse and repeat the next day. So it was a super, super amazing thing. I've never sweated so much ever. I never knew sweat could be in all the places that sweat was. Because it was so hot in the desert. Plus you were standing, right? And then you were walking. But you just couldn't. You just had to be there, and you had to carry everything that was with you. So if you had an umbrella or anything, you had to put it all in your bag because, you had to carry everything with you. So that was a long answer to a short question. I would say in a scale of 1 to 10 of everything I've ever done in my life, I'm putting it in the top 10. Just like the top 1 would be committing my life to God. And number 2 would probably be my husband before the adoption of my daughter. I'm just saying, because one really helps the other one, but this is in the top 10. Climbing the Sydney Harbor Bridge, raising $1 million for charity. This is up there because it was so life affirming to be part of reenacting God's amazing, greatest story with hot Jonathan Rumi and Matthew Said Hi to Me. I'm just saying.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. It's like, you got to mention that you were told,
Matthew
don't talk to the actors. And he stands right in front of you and says hi, right?
I know. So I wasn't talking to him, and he said hi. And I was like, they're saying hi to me. I'm not allowed to say anything. I just went, hi. Trying to be all like, but I was so good. I didn't say, let's get a selfie or any stupid thing. That would be totally inappropriate. And I didn't snap my camera out, tried to get a picture of him. I was really good. I followed all the rules, but it was just so fun to be a part of it. And I, like I said, love Matthew and Mary Magdalene. And I could see them in the scenes, and then Jonathan and some other characters I can't tell you were in the scenes. And then we reenacted a big scene, which is super cool. And so, and then of course you and I are both going to Chosen Con. So where all the geeky Chosen people are going to be.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that. So how many of the actors do you think you got to see that everybody would know from the first 3 seasons? All of them, or majority of them? Or
it's hard because, again, we had to go stand wherever we had to stand. So the actors, like, there were times where all 12 disciples and Mary and some of the other women were doing a scene, but I was in a different part walking around. Oh. So could I see them? Yes. Were they over there, 100 yards away? Sure. But Matthew was the one that was like standing next to where I started the scene by the goats, and he was standing right there. So he was like probably the closest one I saw. But yeah, we could see him, but I just respected the rules. So yes. I didn't I didn't take any pictures inside the set. I didn't post anything like they asked us not to, and not talk about the scenes. Even though I've seen some people posting some, and I just think it's sad. Like, follow the rules, guys. This is like a very special thing we get to do. So I'm a rule follower. I did it like awesome. They said.
So I'm just curious, do you think that the scene that you did, or the scenes that you did, are they all going to be part of the same episode, do you think?
No. So they had already edited season 4 episodes 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 before they had the big day of the extras. So that means we'll be in season 4, episode 5 through 8, or in any other season where they just use the background of Capernaum.
Okay.
Right. And it could be the background of any city, but it was shot in Goshen, and that's the Capernaum set, but it's also the set, with Nathaniel's tree. And it's also just the great, walking out across the Holy Land set. There's like tons of like desert looking land. There's mountain ranges, it's really desolate out there in the desert. So lots of those scenes. But, I was one time positioned under the bridge in downtown Capernaum on a walkway, and I noticed the bridge, and I went back and watched season 2, I think, when Nathaniel was under the tree, and it might have been season 3. I get them all mixed up. And he said, you didn't see me. And he was meeting Jesus. Jesus said, I saw you under the tree,
Season 2. Yep.
Yeah, season 2. And
Yep.
so that that stone structure in downtown Capernaum is where I was walking back and forth for one of the scenes. And then when I was in another scene, I was looking over at it and I really recognized it. And then I went back and watched it. It was like, that's the place I was. I stood under Nathaniel's big stone thing. Oh. So I was kind of geeking out. I was geeking out for sure.
So is this set really big? I mean, is it like, or they just
Yeah.
make it seem big when they film it?
No, it's really big. It's yeah, it's a LDS intentional biblical scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is fantastic in the middle of the desert. It's a full sound set and it's an amazing city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool, like up at the top. It's really steep and hilly. So like
Oh.
literally we were walking up the streets that were really hilly and walking up stone steps and everything.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was legit. It was awesome.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for season 4 to get here. And so that's why I'm doing all these interviews to kind of fill everybody in between seasons. So I'm excited, and I'm hoping that once I get to see season 4, I'm going to be looking for you, but I'm going to be like, all right, if I don't find you, I'm going to be like, Betsy, where were you in these shows? Because I want to see you.
Well, you know this, that they're going to release season 4 in the movie theaters. They
Yes.
say January, February. So I don't know if they're going to allow us to binge it, like bring your, pajamas and stay for a day. I doubt it. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll do like 1 and 2 and then like 3 and 4. But it's funny, my girlfriend and I that were in it and our friend we met there, Becky from Oklahoma, that was in it, we're all going to be like just scanning the scenes to see if we get a glimpse of us. And then of course go home and watch it on our app or put it up on our TV and then scanning the scenes one by one to see if we can find ourselves.
Yeah.
But I know on one very important scene that I'm not allowed to tell you, we walked right behind the actors and they shot it a whole bunch of times. And I know what scene that was. So if I was to pick when I could find myself, it would be in this one scene where 2 actors were talking
Uh-huh.
and I walked behind them.
Oh.
Now, whether I got the shot or not. And then another scene, maybe some of the disciples were doing something and they were in a one part and I was walking up some steps near them.
Uh-huh.
So that would be another place I'd look for myself. And then everything else is going to be super random because it's just a big city, crisscross on a big city. I can think of one more place I was that I know where I could find me in a scene, but I don't know if they even got that part because they were shooting so many of the different parts of it. I don't know if my little area was shot, but it's very exciting. And it was really fun to know I personally, got to donate $1,000 of my own money and $1,000 matched by Come and See Foundation. We met Stan Jantz. He's the head of it. He's fabulous. And so that's why I'm making Chosen Inspired Clothing to donate money to the Come and See Foundation.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. One more thing I want to ask before we get off the subject of the experience. Did you get to witness Dallas directing? Like, I've seen clips where he would be talking to extras, like, I want you to do this thing. Were you involved with that? Did you get to actually kind of work with him a little bit?
Yeah, mostly he has people that run the extras. So
Okay.
he has a guy who runs all the extras. And so there's background extras and there's paid extras.
Okay.
So the paid extras are people that they're not paid much. Some of them are volunteers and some of them get $100 a day because we met them. And they have the professional costumes like the Sadducees and the Pharisees that are not the main ones, that are not Nicodemus, but are really dressed up in the garb, right?
Right.
So they're not the main actors, but the people in the marketplace that are selling the doves, they might have like really good traditional costumes on because they're in more of the shots. So there were probably 50 paid extras, maybe 60 that were super costumed out. Well, that was the good news and the bad news because it was 104 degrees and they were dressed as like Pharisees and Sadducees, those great big hats and all those layers of costume. And they were super, super hot. They were really sweating. So Dallas would talk to them. He would give direction to them. Our direction was ABC, always be crossing.
Oh.
And then we always changed it to always believe in Christ. And we made up all these other things for ABC, but that was our thing. What do you got to do? Always be crossing. And that means you would just go to one part of the marketplace and then turn back around and walk back across the steps and turn back around and walk over to the doves and turn back around and walk. So you never like looked at a camera or did anything for the camera. You just kept moving. If you were walking next to a friend, we learned that in their times, they didn't really like chat. You know, like we're so American, we'd be like, ah, Shay, what are you doing? They would more like just walk through the marketplace and, talk amongst themselves more quietly than American style. They didn't like grab each other and hug and things, So you would just always be crossing. ABC, always be crossing. Now, Dallas would always stand in the line when we were walking along and he would fist bump us and he would let some people take some selfies, not too out of control because he had full days, of working. But he was super magnanimous, awesome. And we did get to see him direct like the actors, So that was really fun. And if you happened to be standing close to him, you could hear him, or you were, in the shot far away and he was just over near the actors.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's so super fun and exciting. And I really hope that the next time they have an opportunity for us to join, that I get to be there. So
yeah,
Hopefully
we're going to have that shared condo.
That's right.
Yeah, I told you I'm going to put an Airbnb together. So I'll have you on the list. We've got some good girls. We can all share a car and everything. Cause that's the thing too, as an extra, if people listening don't know, you're not paid. You pay for your own airfare, your own hotel, your own transportation. There's no way to get out to the set in Goshen. You have to drive. There's no Ubers or anything. So you have to get out there. Then they feed you for 3 days. And, but that's it. There's no compensation. So it cost me probably $600 to do it on top of donating the money. So it's all, just because you really want to support The Chosen and you have it on your heart to be part of this ministry.
Yeah, it's been on my heart the last few years. When they did the first one with the Sermon on the Mount, that one I was like, oh, I have the money, I can do it. And then I didn't do it then. So, and then this last time I'm like, well, then I have to go find people, which is something, it's one of my worst fears, like having to ask people, would you give me money for this thing? But I will get over that for this next one. So hopefully it's a similar process the next time that they look for extras. Something like that. Oh, yeah.
Here, I was just drinking out of my Chosen cup. Right, there you go. And then what was that? What kind of jewelry did I have on today for our interview? I have my Chosen band on here today.
Get used to different. I see that.
Go.
Yeah.
5 + 2.
5 and 2.
The Chosen.
Yes.
So I'm all wigged out. Yes. All good.
I know we're getting close to the end of our conversation today, but I know also that you told me that your husband is Jewish, but didn't you say that you got him to start watching The Chosen?
Yeah, it's been so cool. So I took him to The Chosen in the theater and I told him a little bit about when I started watching it on my phone, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And then I took him to the theater. So that must have been season 2. The first time they went to the theater. I get them all mixed up now because I've rewatched it so many times. So season 1 and 2, episode 1 and 2, maybe season 3 was in the theaters. But anyway, I took him and he watched it. And I was like, oh no, is he going to get on his phone? Is this going to be a bad situation? And he really was interested in it and he really liked it. And then he came back and he said, I want to watch The Chosen, but not with you. Because I don't want you telling me that's Mary Magdalene, that's Matthew. I don't want you telling me the story. I want to discover it by myself and I want to process it and listen to it. So he's now in season 3 on the second to last episode. He's not yet to the final episode, but I cannot tell a lie. We watched the making of season 3, episode 8 together.
Okay.
So he knows what it is, but he hasn't watched it yet. And then he's rewatching season 1 and 2 with me on the CW on Sunday nights.
Really?
So, that's really fun because it's just fun to see it again. It's like, let's watch The Chosen. And he's like it. So it's really been cool for me because he walked away from his faith a long time ago, even though he was born Jewish. He hasn't gone to the synagogue. And it's so cool to see how The Chosen respects and educates and informs us about the Jewish faith. And then he can have that background and, remember what he learned when he was bar mitzvah guy. But he can kind of come back around. Now, he's not crazy like me, deep diving into the Bible, doing that. But I will take, he's watching The Chosen.
Yeah.
And that we're having conversations about God and we pray together about things in our life and our daughter. And that means so much to me. So I'm like, honey, that's the most romantic thing. Saying a prayer.
That's awesome, especially because the last episode of season 3 is when we have the Pharisee that comes up to him and he's like, he goes, I think you're losing something. And he's like, yes. And he goes, so am I. And he asks Jesus, what are you losing? And he says, time. And, you know, you just see the look on his face, like he's so defeated. And Jesus is like, do you want to come pray with me? So as somebody who's Jewish, it might see how this other Jewish person was struggling, like, I can't agree with any of this stuff. And now I think he's slowly changing. And I can't wait to see what happens in season 4 with that character, because I feel like he's going to start accepting Jesus too. I'm hopeful.
You know, I think I do not have the background Bible knowledge, as I mentioned, from growing up. So for me, it's also exciting. It's like, really? And that happened in the Old Testament? Cool. You know, like we just watched a documentary about Route 60 in Israel, and I learned a lot about Old Testament stuff.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
you know, so there's so many things that are new to me, not new to all of you that maybe have been in the Word longer. And so I'm super excited about it. And I'm just super excited to what doors God opens to serve him with the ministry of art and the ministry of travel, and all of us doing art and traveling, like back to the Holy Land, and how fabulous that will be. Because, you know, I believe that the right brain helps you then, you know, use your imagination and hear the Holy Spirit in more creative ways. And so it really does for me. So, and the big news is I started reading a book called about the relentless elimination of hurry.
Okay.
And it's a pastor, a guy named Mark Comer. And he said that the devil is creating havoc and causing us to be in this hurry environment so that we stamp out God. And I was like, bingo. That is it. You know, it's like too busy, too busy, too busy, too busy. So I've said, okay, for the first time at age 62, I'm going to start taking a Sabbath. And I actually wrote a blog about it. I've now had 3 Sabbaths, and I'm 62 years old. I know, I did too. And this weekend I did it again. And I'm just like, I'm not going to work on Sunday. I'm going to do art. I'm going to be with my dogs. I'm going to be with my husband. I'm going to walk. I'm going to enjoy Colorado and the beautiful weather. I'm going to get ready for Florida. I'm going to do anything that honors God, listen to K-Love, read some Bible, read my Mary Magdalene books, you know, but I'm not going to work. And it's hard for me because I want to go get my work done. But
Hear you.
I believe that I can listen more when I slow down. And so I wrote this blog, and so many of my friends are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get that book. That's me. I'm so busy. I'm stamping out God. So I think The Chosen again opened the door to me relating so much to Jesus and the disciples that I want to be like them more. And what this book says is be like Jesus. He went away and listened to his Father. You know, where's Jesus? He's off in the woods by himself. Listen to his dad. He's off praying. He took 40 days and 40 nights, you know? I mean, like, and we are like, oh, I can't get 5 minutes to God. I'm so busy because I'm so important. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. And that's where the art comes through. That's where like stuff comes through me when I'm doing Sabbath. So
That's
3
awesome.
down.
You know, that's kind of what I finally came to that conclusion too, because in addition to a day job and trying to do this podcast, I also have a side hustle where I build websites for people, and I help membership website owners with their tech and their business. And I used to work 7 days a week just like that. And then I don't know, a while back, earlier in this year, I think I finally just decided, one, it was hard for me to get stuff done on Sunday because I do go to church and I volunteer at the church, and sometimes I don't get home till maybe 1, in the afternoon anyway. But I just realized it's like, I really should be giving this day back to God. It's his day. So I don't clean house. I don't try to do any work. Sometimes I get people like, are you sure you can't help me out? I might give them 5 minutes. But it's really not my day to work, give it back to God. And I try to get back into anything I might have missed because I try to follow a Bible plan on my YouVersion Bible app. So if I miss one, I try to get it caught up that day. And I'm getting ready to go away to Branson, Missouri for a few days. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to go see Esther at Sight and Sound Theater, which I've never been to one. Everybody says it's amazing. They say that play is amazing. It's one of my favorite Bible stories. So I'm going to go see that. I'm going to have a little fun at Silver Dollar City. And the other 2 days, I just want to just not do anything. I mean, I'm going to read. I got lots of books I'm going to be reading, which I've gotten away from that. I'm going to go out and be with nature. So I totally get what you're saying. And I'm pretty sure I've heard of that book before. And I'm going to have to add that to my list because I think it's important. We need to stay focused on God all the time. Don't give Satan our time. Don't let him distract us. Go back to be with God.
Yeah, and the chaos. I think Satan uses the chaos to distract us. It's like, I don't want you to have time to meet Betsy.
Yes.
Why don't you just keep working? Why
Yep.
would you have another Christian friend that's really fun that maybe now you're going to go to Israel with a bunch of girls because you met Betsy at a podcast convention?
Yep.
You should just be working and don't go talk to her. You're supposed to be working. And you're like, I'm talking to you. And I'm walking away from my work just for a minute. I'm walking away. But I'm glad you did.
Because I remember right at the end, we got away for a little bit to talk. And then all of a sudden I realized that these people that I was working on the stage. And so I was supposed to hand the microphones out and stuff. And they told me before they went up on stage, we're not going to do a Q&A session. I was like, oh yeah, sure. That's what they all say. And they're like, no, seriously, we don't have time to do it. And so then you and I are standing next to the soundboard. And all of a sudden, like, well, we're about to take questions. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I was like, you can't have her. I've got her. We're talking about Jesus. Hey, you're interrupting our chosen conversation.
That's right. Real quick, tell us a little bit about the clothing you're making. You've mentioned that you make chosen clothing, but what does that mean? And why would people might be interested to know more about this?
Okay, so this is really funny. So I'm an artist and I've been making art. And then I started making what I'm calling big God art. And then I made this big God chosen art. So I made art like this one's got the Lord's Prayer on it. And it's got all kinds of decor. But I put fish in teal swimming upstream. And then I put really small chosen. So the chosen people will know what it is, but regular people will go, what a beautiful scarf. It's got the Lord's Prayer. Oh, how fun is that? But then I made another one that says multiply, and it's got fish on it. And it says peace, hope, and love, big God. And I made another one. So I just started making 4 different pieces of, I'm calling it big God art. And then I'm going to use the proceeds for anything I sell at the Chosen Convention or just in the world and donate back to the Come and See Foundation because I figure God gave me these designs and it's really fun. I think Chosen people have all the sportswear they have, which is awesome. And we all have all that. But some people, some ladies especially, I really haven't made man stuff, girl stuff more. But you could be a very realized man and wear my big God shirts, knock yourself out. But the ponchos and the scarves might be kind of girlish. But I'm just gonna put it in the world. And my hope would be to find church groups, women's groups, anybody that wants really cool sportswear or wants to do a fundraiser for their church or their youth program. Now I've got this really cool big God line and I'm going to keep growing it and making more and more art for that. And then maybe find a niche here in the believer community where I can, again, it's called Art on Purpose because I give the proceeds back to charity. So it's called Do Good, Have Fun. And I'll have it. It's premiering at Chosen Con. Yay. And I'm going to make you wear some and walk around Shay. So look for Shay at Chosen Con. She might be wearing a really cute scarf. It might look a lot like this.
I like that. I love the colors. It's very cool.
I know. So wear something that looks really good with blue. Shay, this is going to look so cute
black,
on you.
or I don't know. What do I wear
Yeah,
with
you can
it?
wear. You can wear black. You can wear red. There's your little fish swimming upstream.
I love it.
So,
and you're also on a podcast with Shay, I believe, right? My friend Shay Sparks.
yeah, we have a couple podcasts. We have one called Underwired, and it's to uplift and inspire women. That's for women on a video podcast. My podcast is called Boost Power Podcast. It's like plug in for education and inspiration. And so, I just do a whole lot of things in my world. And it's just, again, back to, I call it my little M ministry, right? If I can put good words, good deeds, inspired media, inspired products in the world, then I think that's a way, again, for people to find their God. And then if they find out about the Chosen, that is going to be a catalyst. And if I can get them to the Chosen, I convert people to the Chosen all the time. I like, don't let it go. So it's my number one question I ask people. You watching The Chosen? I'm going to tell you about that.
That's what I do too. And I was surprised when I was at Podcast Movement. I met a lot of people that were like, oh yeah, I'm Christian. I'm like, well, have you heard of The Chosen? No, what's that? I was like, let me tell you all about The Chosen. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
There's not more Christians that haven't heard about this show because it's one of the best ones out there. That's for sure.
Well, maybe they'll hear about it from your great podcast, Shay. That will be how they hear.
From your lips to God's ears. There we go.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for being on. Real quick, just tell everybody how to find you before we say goodbye. That's important. How can they find more about Betsy?
Okay. Well, probably easiest to understand is artonpurpose.us. artonpurpose.us. And if you find that, it's going to dump you into the middle of my website with my inspired products, which are on Etsy. And since my name's Betsy, it's funny. It's Betsy. Betsy on Etsy. But it's easier if you go through my link. So artonpurpose.us. And then on that site, you're also going to find my podcast. You're going to find all kinds of uplifting and inspiring media and things. You can get on my VIP community Unity list. And so you get sale coupons and stuff for sportswear, all kinds of fun. So artonpurpose.us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Betsy. This has been a blast talking to you and reconnecting again. And I'm so thankful that you're on the show. And I just really appreciate you sharing your heart, sharing your story, and just letting everybody know how Jesus is working through your life.
Amen, sister. Can't wait to hang out with you at Chosen Con. And who knows, maybe we'll get a little close to Matthew. Maybe we'll get a photo with Matthew. It'd be awesome.
I love it.
It'd be super awesome. All right. Well, everybody watch The Chosen if you don't know about it. And can't wait for you to see me in season 4, Background Extra.
Thanks, Betsy.
What did you think of that episode with Betsy? Wasn't she great? She has more energy than me, and I'm younger than she is, so I'm envious of that energy that she has. I was so excited to talk to her, and I forgot how much fun it was to have that conversation with her, because we recorded it several months ago, and I'm just now getting a chance to edit it, and it's like, oh my gosh. We had lots of fun. I noticed I laughed a lot talking to her. And I really appreciated her insight into what it was like to be at the season 4 extras. And we just heard from Catherine a week ago, or a few weeks ago now, on my last episode. But now we have a different viewpoint from somebody else who had her first time ever attending as an extra. And hopefully, God willing, I'll get to be on season 5 or 6 with her. That would be pretty amazing. Of course, I'm also dreading if I get to be on season 6. I don't want to be out there as one of those people that are yelling, crucify him. I really don't want to say that. I know that we've all put Jesus on the cross, but I don't want to be one of those people shouting that. Let's see what they need extras for, and hopefully I can just be in the background walking back and forth. So be sure to check out my Facebook group, Walking with the Chosen. I am doing a lot more with that group. I'm trying to share more things. If I come across something in YouTube, or if I find something about the Chosen and one of the different Chosen groups that I belong to, or if somebody from the group has something I see them share on social media, I might share something inside the group as well. So I'm adding more information there. I'm also trying to get TikTok and Instagram going, but I only have so many hours in the day. So right now I'm really going to focus mainly on the Facebook group. And I'm always looking for more people to interview. I'm going to go back and start doing seasons 2 and 3 and doing recap episodes on those as quickly as I possibly can, hopefully before February 1st. So if that happens, that means I'm going to be doing more than one episode a week. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just pushing myself too far. But I am looking forward to seeing the season 4, and I cannot wait for that to come out. And I'm just going to be one of those people that's just crying. I should just bring a box of Kleenexes with me when I go to the movies, right? Okay, guys, well, that's all I have for this episode. Please send me a message at shay@walkingwiththechosen.com if you have any questions, or if you'd like to be on the show and share your story and your journey, why the Chosen has impacted your life. I would love to have you share it here. I will see you guys soon, and until then, keep walking with the Chosen.